Hello, my name is Clara Jones. And for 28 years, I was the quiet operational glue holding a broken family together. They treated me like a shadow. My brother, Elias Jones, the golden child, a successful lawyer, could do no wrong. He was the sun, and I was just orbiting him, sacrificing my own dreams, always trying to make them proud. But for them, it was never enough. They smiled at my brother, patted his back with pride, while I only received cold stares and sharper words. "Why can't you be more like him?" they said, their voices cutting straight through me like blades. I swallowed it all, stayed silent, believing that one day they'd finally see me. Years earlier, I was a freelance marketer with big dreams. I'd just landed a contract with a major supermarket chain, a hefty $40,000 to revamp their regional ad campaign. It was my ticket to independence, a chance to finally build my name in a cutthroat industry. But then my family's grocery store in Kingston, Maine, hit rock bottom. Bills piled up, suppliers stopped calling, and my parents, Victoria Sterling and Walter Sterling, were drowning in debt. My mum's voice cracked over the phone, begging me to help. My dad, usually stoic, admitted they might lose everything. I couldn't let that happen. That sense of obligation, that invisible chain they'd shackled me with since childhood, yanked me back. So I walked away from the contract. I called the supermarket rep, cancelled the deal, and poured every ounce of my energy into saving our family store. I crafted a marketing campaign from scratch. Ads on local radio, flyers in every mailbox, even early social media posts on clunky platforms. I negotiated with vendors, charmed customers, and slashed costs. Within months, foot traffic doubled. The store's revenue climbed and we paid off the worst debts. I worked nights tweaking slogans, designing posters, believing this would finally make them see me. But they didn't. My mum and dad called a family meeting one evening. I expected gratitude, maybe a nod for pulling us through the crisis. Instead, they handed the store's reins to my brother, Elias Jones. "He's a lawyer," my mum, Victoria, said, her eyes glowing with pride. "He's got the head for this." Elias, who hadn't lifted a finger, who spent those months safely at his law firm, was now in charge. My dad, Walter, nodded, avoiding my gaze. "It's for the best," he said. I stood there stunned, my chest tight. Elias smirked, adjusting his tie, already planning changes to my successful campaign. "You did okay, Clara," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Okay?" I'd saved their legacy. I'd sacrificed my $40,000 future. But to them, I was just the backup, the one who filled in gaps. My mum kept praising Elias's vision as if my dedicated, successful work was nothing. My dad didn't even look up from his coffee. I wanted to scream, to demand they acknowledge what I'd done, but I didn't. I swallowed the hurt, forced a smile, and kept going. Late nights at the store, I'd reorganize shelves, update ads, anything to stay useful. I told myself they'd notice eventually. If I worked harder, proved myself more, they'd see my worth. Maybe at a family dinner my mum would finally say, "You saved us." Maybe my dad would clap my shoulder, not Elias's. My best friend since college, Leo Chen, saw through it. We'd meet at a diner and he'd shake his head over my stories. "They're blind, Clara," he said one night, sipping coffee. "You're killing yourself for people who don't care." I brushed it off, but his words stuck. I couldn't stop hoping, couldn't quit, trying to earn their respect. So I stayed, pouring myself into their world, believing one day they'd value me. The store thrived because of my campaign. Customers filled the aisles, cash registers hummed, and suppliers returned. But every time I walked in, I saw Elias's name on the manager's office door. My parents would call him to discuss strategy while I was left restocking shelves. "Good job," my mum said once, distracted, as if I'd mopped a floor, not saved their business. Elias would breeze in, tossing out ideas I'd already implemented, and they'd nod like he'd invented them. I kept waiting for a thank you, a real one. I kept thinking, maybe next time. Maybe if I did more, they'd see me as more than the lesser child. So I pushed forward, ignoring the ache in my chest, hoping for the day they'd finally say I was enough. Months later, I was knee-deep in planning my brother's wedding. Elias was set to marry Hazel Reed, his fiancée, and my parents handed me the reins to make it happen. They didn't ask if I had the time or the money. They just expected me to deliver a perfect event. I'd been freelancing as a marketer, scraping by, but I dipped into my savings $10,000 to cover deposits for the venue, the caterers, everything. I wanted it to be flawless, not for Elias, but to prove I could do something they'd value. I spent weeks calling caterers, florists, photographers, locking in every detail. I picked a menu: roast chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, summer salads, to fit the budget. I met with vendors in Kingston, haggling to keep costs down, double-checking contracts to avoid mistakes. But Elias had other ideas. He didn't just want a wedding, he wanted a spectacle. "Get a string quartet from Boston," he demanded over breakfast one morning, scrolling through his phone. "And those rare orchids from overseas. Hazel saw them in a magazine." I explained the budget was tight, that my savings were already stretched thin. He rolled his eyes. "You're always cutting corners, Clara." "Make it happen." My mum, Victoria, chimed in, sipping her coffee. "He's right. This is his day. Don't mess it up." My dad, Walter, just nodded, flipping through his newspaper. Their words stung, but I kept going, thinking maybe a flawless wedding would finally earn their respect. I worked late nights emailing vendors, adjusting plans. I found a local band willing to play for less, booked standard roses instead of imported flowers. Every choice was calculated to balance Elias's demands with reality, but he kept pushing. One afternoon, he called, insisting on a celebrity DJ from New York. "It's only a few thousand more," he said like it was nothing. I reminded him I was funding half the wedding myself. "Figure it out," he snapped, hanging up. Victoria overheard and shook her head. "Why can't you just do what he wants?" she said. Walter glanced up, muttering, "Don't ruin this for him." I felt dismissed, like my hours of effort were invisible. I'd spent hours coordinating, sacrificing my own projects to make their vision work, yet every step they criticized. I kept tweaking the seating chart, confirming deliveries, hoping they'd see the work behind it. I even paid an extra deposit to secure a backup generator just in case. My savings dwindled, but I told myself it was worth it. If I could deliver Elias's perfect day, maybe Victoria would smile at me for once. Maybe Walter would say something other than, "Don't ruin it." Elias's demands kept escalating. At one point, he texted me a link to a luxury catering service, insisting on caviar appetizers. I called him, explaining it would blow the budget. "You're embarrassing me," he said, his voice cold. "Victoria overheard when I visited the house." And she sighed. "Just do what he asked, Clara." "It's not that hard." Walter nodded, not looking up from his TV. Their dismissal burned, but I kept working, adjusting plans, hoping the wedding would change how they saw me. The night before the wedding, I sat at our family's dining table in Kingston, the air thick with tension. My mum had cooked her usual roast, but no one was eating. Elias leaned back in his chair, scrolling through his phone while his fiancée, Hazel, picked at her plate. My dad sipped his wine, barely glancing up. I'd spent months planning Elias's wedding, pouring $10,000 of my savings into it. But tonight felt different, like a storm was brewing. Elias broke the silence. "Clara, we need to upgrade the menu," he said, not looking up. "Add lobster tails and that vintage champagne from Napa Valley. Oh, and hire that photographer from Boston, the one who shot the governor's gala." I stared at him, my fork frozen. Lobster tail, champagne that cost $500 a bottle, a photographer charging $3,000 a day. I'd already stretched my savings to the limit, covering half the wedding's cost. "Elias, I can't," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I've already paid for everything, the venue, the band, the flowers. There's no money left." He scoffed, tossing his phone on the table. "You're always so cheap, Clara." "This is my wedding. Make it happen. Victoria set her glass down hard, her eyes narrowing. He's right, she said. This is a once-in-a-lifetime day. Why are you being so selfish? Walter looked up, his voice gruff. Don't ruin this for your brother. My chest tightened, their words cutting deeper than I expected. I tried to explain. I've spent $10,000 of my own savings. The budget's maxed out. Lobster and a celebrity photographer aren't possible. Elias rolled his eyes, leaning toward Hazel. See? I told you she'd skimp on us. Hazel stayed quiet, avoiding my gaze. Victoria folded her arms, her voice sharp. You've always been like this, Clara. Never stepping up when it matters. Walter nodded, adding, Elias deserves better than your half-hearted effort. Half-hearted? I'd worked nights, haggled with vendors, made their dream wedding possible. I pushed back, my voice rising. I've paid for half this wedding. I've done everything you asked. I can't keep pouring money I don't have into this. Elias smirked, shaking his head. Then maybe you shouldn't be involved at all, he said. Victoria leaned forward, her eyes cold. You know what, Clara? The greatest gift for your brother's wedding is you vanishing from this family forever. The room went silent. Walter didn't flinch, just stared at his plate. Hazel shifted uncomfortably, saying nothing. My heart pounded, their words echoing like a slap. Vanish. After all I'd done, I wanted to scream, to list every sacrifice I'd made. But their faces, Victoria's glare, Walter's indifference, Elias's smug grin, told me it wouldn't matter. They'd chosen him again. I stood, my chair scraping the floor. Fine, I said, my voice low but firm, if that's what you want. I grabbed my purse, my keys jangling in my hand. Victoria called after me. Don't make a scene, Clara. But I was done listening. I walked out the door, slamming it behind me, the sound sharp and final. Outside, the cold Kingston air hit my face, but I felt a fire inside. I'd given them everything, my savings, my time, my hope, and they'd thrown it back in my face. Sitting in my car, I gripped the steering wheel, my mind racing. They wanted me gone. Fine. But I wasn't going to fade quietly. I'd spent months building their perfect day, only to be told I was the problem. No more. I wasn't sure what I'd do next, but one thing was clear. I was done being their doormat. I started the engine, my resolve hardening. Tomorrow they'd see what happened when I stopped carrying their weight. The next morning I woke up with their words still burning in my ears. I sat on my bed staring at my phone, my savings account app open. $10,000, my entire nest egg, sat tied up in deposits for Elias's wedding. Caterers, florists, the band, all paid from my pocket to make their day perfect. But after last night's dinner, their demand for me to vanish forever changed everything. I wasn't going to let them walk over me anymore. I started calling vendors. First, the caterer. Cancel the order, I said, my voice steady. I'm pulling the deposit. The woman on the line hesitated, asking about penalties, but I didn't care. Next, the florist. No roses, no centerpieces, I told her. Refund my payment. The band was last. They had already cashed my check, but I demanded a chargeback using the custodial client change loophole in the contract I had cleverly written myself. By noon, I'd clawed back most of my $10,000, leaving the wedding stripped bare. No flowers, no music, no food. I didn't feel guilt, only resolve. They wanted me out. I'd give them a wedding they'd never forget. By afternoon, chaos erupted at the venue. Guests arrived to empty tables, no band playing, no bouquets in sight. Hazel, Elias's fiancée, stood in her gown, stunned as relatives whispered in confusion. Elias, red-faced, yelled at the venue staff, who had no answers. Victoria called me, her voice shrill through my voicemail. Clara, what have you done? You've ruined everything. Walter left a message too, his tone cold. You're a disgrace to this family. I didn't call back. Their accusations didn't faze me. I'd heard enough. That evening, Elias took to an online forum, a local Kingston message board buzzing with gossip. My sister sabotaged my wedding, he posted, his words dripping with venom. He painted me as the villain, claiming I'd deliberately tanked his big moment. Comments piled up, some from neighbours I'd known for years calling me selfish, unhinged. Victoria chimed in, replying to Elias's post. "She's always been trouble." Their lies spread like wildfire, twisting the truth to save face. I sat in my apartment reading the posts, my stomach churning, but I wasn't staying to fight their narrative. Instead, I opened my laptop and started searching for apartments in Crestline, Colorado. I'd visited once, loved the quiet mountains, the fresh start it promised. Kingston held nothing for me anymore, just a family that saw me as disposable. I made a call to a realtor asking about rentals. "Something small," I said. "I'm starting over." Weeks after the chaos, I stood in my small Kingston office, packing up the last of my things. I'd built a modest freelance marketing business over the years, a side hustle that brought in just enough to keep me afloat. I decided to sell it. A local agency offered $25,000 for my client list and contracts. I signed the papers without hesitation. That money, plus the $10,000 I'd pulled back from the wedding, was my ticket out. I also made a harder call. For years, I'd poured myself into my family's grocery store, first with the marketing campaign that saved it, then with a $5,000 investment from my savings to keep it running. I'd managed inventory, negotiated with suppliers, kept the books balanced. But after their betrayal, I was done. I contacted the bank and withdrew my investment, every cent. I didn't call Victoria or Walter to warn them. They'd made their choice when they told me to vanish. Without my money and my silent, meticulous management, the store's cracks, ones I'd patched for years, would split wide open. By the end of the month, I was on a bus to Crestline, Colorado. My belongings fit in 2 suitcases. The mountains loomed outside the window, their quiet promise pulling me forward. The first night, I sat on the bare floor eating takeout, feeling lighter than I had in years. Kingston was behind me. Victoria, Walter, Elias, and their venom too. The family store didn't last long after I left. Leo texted me updates, his messages blunt. "The financial earthquake has started," he wrote once. Suppliers stopped delivering when payments stalled. Customers dwindled, turned off by empty shelves. Elias, who'd been handed the reins, fumbled every decision. Victoria couldn't handle the logistics I'd managed. Walter just retreated, blaming everyone else. Within weeks, the store declared bankruptcy, its doors locked for good. Leo wrote, "They're falling apart without you." I didn't reply. Their failure wasn't my burden anymore. In Crestline, I started over. I took freelance marketing jobs, small gigs for local shops, crafting ads for coffee roasters and boutiques. The work was steady, my skills sharp from years of hustling. One morning, I wandered into a bakery downtown, drawn by the smell of fresh bread. Amelia Stone, the bakery owner, greeted me with a wide smile. She was in her 50s, her apron dusted with flour, her laugh loud enough to fill the room. "You look new around here," she said, sliding a free scone across the counter. "Takes guts to start over," she said, her eyes kind. She invited me to a local business meetup, introducing me to shop owners who needed marketing help. I landed 2 clients that week thanks to her. Amelia became a regular part of my day. Coffee at her bakery, chats about life, her steady presence grounding me. Months later, Crestline had become my sanctuary. But the fallout from Kingston still rippled. The family grocery store, once the heart of my parents' world, was gone. Its shuttered windows a symbol of their unravelling. Victoria and Walter faced a harsh new reality. Their savings dwindled, forcing them to sell their house and move into a cramped apartment on the edge of Kingston. Elias fared no better. His charm couldn't mask his mismanagement. He'd taken a job at a hardware store, but customers whispered about his role in the family's downfall. Hazel, his fiancée, drifted away. Their engagement quietly dissolved amid the strain. My freelance marketing business was taking root. I'd secured contracts with 5 local businesses. My income hovered around $3,000 a month, enough for my modest apartment and more than enough for peace of mind. Leo remained a steady presence, calling every few weeks. "Kingston is not the same without you," he said. but you're killing it out there. Amelia, the bakery owner, was my anchor. Her belief in me, uncomplicated, unwavering, helped me see myself as more than the daughter who'd never been enough. Then came Victoria's letter. It arrived one crisp morning, her handwriting shaky on the envelope. She claimed she'd been diagnosed with a serious illness, begging me to return to Kingston to help her and Walter rebuild. The words were heavy with guilt, painting me as the key to their salvation. Amelia, wiping down her counter, saw my face and asked what was wrong. I handed her the letter. She scanned it, her brow furrowing. "This smells like manipulation," she said, tossing it aside. "People don't change overnight." Her bluntness cut through my doubt. Leo, when I called him, agreed. "She's trying to drag you back. Don't fall for it." I didn't. I wrote one reply, short and final. "I wish you well, but I'm not coming back." I mailed it and blocked their numbers. Cutting them off wasn't easy. Part of me still ached for the family I'd wanted them to be, but I knew staying tethered to their chaos would only erode the peace I'd found. Amelia nodded when I told her, eyes proud. "You're choosing you," she said. In Crestline, I was building more than a career. I joined a local hiking group. I started painting again, filling sketchbooks with watercolor landscapes. I landed a big contract with a regional tourism board, a 6-month campaign that doubled my income. The work was challenging, but every late night spent tweaking slogans felt like proof of my worth. The lesson was sinking in. My value wasn't tied to what I did for Victoria, Walter, or Elias. It was in the life I was creating, the clients who trusted me, the friends who lifted me, the quiet moments where I felt whole. So, here's the question I want to ask you, the listener, who saw the whole spectacle unfold. They said the greatest gift for my brother's wedding was me vanishing forever. And I did. I walked away, stripped the wedding, pulled my investment, and watched their legacy crumble. If it were you, after giving everything and being told to vanish, would you have stayed to witness the collapse, or would you walk away forever and never look back? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your answer.